superhero.
Unfortunately, homophobia is still something that's rife in 2017. From the playground to the political arena, intolerance towards homosexuality is widespread, exists in many horrific forms. Countless acts of verbal and physical abuse are hurled towards individual gay men and women every day, and the entire LGBT community is continuously viewed as an unstoppable evil by large groups. Many of these pathetic accusations unsurprisingly come from religious groups and fanatics, who have no basic understanding of homosexuality. Now let's bask in the hilarity and downright horror of these alleged faults of gay people. Caution, logic and sanity takes a leave from here on out. At the height of the Ebola outbreak back in 2014, conservative commentator Erik Erikson blamed the lack of an Ebola vaccine on homosexuals, or as Erikson eloquently phrased it, "Fat lesbians got all the Ebola dollars." In a post on his personal blog, Erikson claimed health funding had been grossly misdirected, calling out the National Institute of Health over a study which looked into high obesity rates in gay women. Apparently gay people have been busy bees when it comes to creating hurricanes. According to UK councillor and Democratic Unionist Party member Maurice Mills, Hurricane Katrina, which killed 1,836 back in 2005, was God's punishment towards the gays. Years later in 2012, Hurricane Sandy, which claimed 233 lives, was said to be down to Barack Obama's support for marriage equality, according to American right-wing preacher John McTernan. This one is right up there on the WTF factor. The conventional male and female coupling shouldn't be affected by homosexuality. But according to many right-wing organizations, homosexuality is a sin that is corrupting the sanctity of heterosexual marriage. This is almost like saying that you can't possibly enjoy your steak because someone across the restaurant from you is eating salad. It makes zero sense. Just days after the September 11th attacks, Falwell blamed the terror plot on pagans, feminists and the gays because they tried to secularize America. When you consider Reverend Pat Robertson was once quoted as saying feminism encourages women to kill their children and practice witchcraft, you automatically get the sense he's a little crazy. The financial crash of 2008 was felt around the world. It was hailed as the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression, and people's lives have been irreversibly changed as a result. Lucky for us we had someone like Rick Santorum to explain the cause of the crash and offer us new insight into how it could have been prevented. In 2012, the ex-presidential candidate blamed 2008's economic crash on America's moral breakdown for their evolving views on gay marriage. Another example of gays wielding their almighty power upon the world have been tsunamis, specifically the one that devastated Japan back in 2011. The horrific earthquake and resulting tsunami struck the coastal region of Tohoku, causing 16,000 fatalities and more than $34 billion worth of damage. So to add insult to injury, meet people like Cindy Jacobs, who believes homosexuals are behind this tragedy. Another example that uses gay people as a scapegoat is Germany during the post-World War I years. The German economy was failing and Adolf Hitler, during his rise to power, blamed both the Jews and the homosexuals for the nation's problems. Over the last few years, France has been marred by multiple terror attacks, which claimed hundreds of lives. Most notably were the Charlie Hebdo shootings in January 2015, which killed 12 journalists, and the November 2015 attacks, which targeted a concert hall, restaurants, and a soccer stadium. 2015 rocked France to its very core and made other major cities fearful of becoming the next target. Globally, an estimated 35 million people have died of HIV/AIDS since the spread of the epidemic in the early 1980s, and this includes men and women of all sexual orientations. Try telling that to the half of the world that still view HIV/AIDS as primarily a gay-only disease, spread by grouping pedophilia together with homosexuality is something religious fundamentalists are quite fond of, mostly because it appears to clear the Catholic Church of any wrongdoings where child molestation is concerned. God forbid any straight, neighborly priest should be involved in such atrocious acts. At the height of the political crisis in Ukraine in early 2014, anti-gay American Minister Scott Lively claimed homosexuality was the underlying reason for the conflict in Eastern Europe. He explained the great rift between the US and Russia is the question of homosexuality, continuing to say that the conflict in Ukraine is being driven by this issue on the part of the Obama State Department and the homosexual leaders of the EU. The woman claiming autism is linked to homosexuality is definitely allergic to logic in some way. Republican Suzanne Atnas, who ran for Illinois Congress in 2014, claimed the world is provoking an angry God with abortions, same-sex marriages and civil unions. Homosexuals have been blamed for nearly every other atrocity on this list, so their supposed part in communism may not raise too many eyebrows at this point. During the 1950s, gay men and women were feared to be communist sympathizers, so naturally a witch hunt was set up to remove homosexuals from state employment. Apparently, children that are taught about gay marriage are destined to become gay themselves. This is a widely held belief by many religious fundamentalists and teachers who believe that children should only grow up with the Bible's idea of a relationship. There is probably more evidence out there to support children wanting careers as a Power Ranger than there is for becoming gay as a result of being taught about gay rights. Global warming can be too much for some people to get their heads round, particularly for conservative politicians, who find it much easier to blame homosexuals instead. When you think about it, there's something very Old Testament about climate change. After all, it involves the prospect of the earth flooding, storms gathering and animals clambering on land to avoid drowning. No wonder right-wing lunatics like to put an epic biblical slant on something that can otherwise be explained reasonably and scientifically. Yeah!